Hey guys, welcome back to Brain Dump, a show where I talk about pretty much whatever the fuck I want to talk about. I'm your host, Kai. Hope you guys are doing okay. I just got back from the gym, but now I have castor oil in my hair, so I have to wait to shampoo it because my hair is just like stuck at the length that it's at. I cut my hair in December. It looked so bad. Like, looking back, I laugh at myself because it literally looked so bad, and nobody told me. Like, why did... Everyone's so fake for not telling me. Oh, it looks so good. No, it didn't. I literally had a mop on my head. It was so bad. It was so ugly, and I regret it. But, you know what? I would have never known what it looked like if I didn't do it. Pedro, are you gonna itch the whole time? So, yeah, I'm waiting for this castor oil to set in, so I figured might as well record this in the meantime. We're just gonna get into it. So, this episode, I got the idea from my very first psychology project, and this project was basically you had to find an article that a psychologist did a study on a certain subject that you are interested in. So I'm like, okay, childhood trauma. So, the study I found was really fucking fascinating, and it got me going. It got the ball rolling in my brain. So I'm just going to talk about how my childhood trauma affects me today, because I feel like when I was younger, I didn't think it would affect me as much as it does. I'm going to get into that, but growing up constantly thinking that you're not enough and having someone always telling you the ways you could be doing something better is exhausting. Like, I look back on my childhood and I think, damn, I was so tired. And I still, to this day, I am so tired from my childhood. It took everything out of me, just every single day, coming home and seeing my dad. I was drained. I was done. Like, there was no energy for anything else. When we're kids, we think that our parents know everything. They're the people that are supposed to protect us. So, you know, when my dad starts telling me that I was worthless, I believed him. Like, deep in my core, I believed that I grew up with this preconceived idea of myself as not being good enough. No matter what I did, I just remember having that mindset like, well, this is it. This is how I have to live, never living up to my dad's impossible expectations. I remember thinking that what was going on in my house was normal, but then I started having sleepovers at my friends' houses. Like, you guys sit down at the table and eat dinner together? Like, together? Seriously? You talk about your days? Your dad can go 5 minutes without telling your mom she's a lazy piece of crap? Like, that just was so foreign to me. It was so like, this is a joke, right? Like, you guys sitting at the dinner table being happy. That's not, people don't do that. That's just like a Disney Channel thing, right? Because of this, my friends' houses really became my safe zones, because I knew that I didn't have to fall asleep listening to my parents yelling at each other. There are bits and pieces of my childhood that I remember so vividly, and I'm not sure why. I have a really selective memory because, you know, I have bad memory, but with certain things like this, especially traumatizing experiences, it just sticks out in my mind. But when my parents would fight and I was trying to sleep, I would bring my little stereo. I remember I had this stereo and I had like 4 Alvin and the Chipmunks CDs that I would put in there. But at night, I would just put on like white noise and go in my closet. And that's how I would deal with it for a long time. So I would just sleep in my closet whenever they were fighting because I didn't want to hear it. But after a while, it just became normal, and I was used to it, and it was just background noise to my life. Just the chaos was in constant motion. A huge thing that I notice that triggers me is people yelling. Like, not even at me. If I'm in public and someone is shouting at another person, oh my god, especially if it's a parent yelling at their kid. I feel so panicked because I want so badly to say out loud, why have kids if you're going to talk to them that way? Like, some parents truly treat their children like they deserve nothing, no respect, and they forget that their children are human beings that have feelings, and these things that you're saying to them are going to affect them. I have to fight that urge because I don't want to have to argue with a middle-aged person. I won't stoop to their level of nastiness because it's not worth it. I spent my entire childhood trying to argue with a narcissist, and it's exhausting. Like I said, there's no point, especially if it's a stranger. Like, I know that's none of my business. It just really pisses me off. It's weird because, like, a family 2 tables down from me at a restaurant will start arguing, and then my body goes into full flight or fight mode. Suddenly, I'm that 10-year-old carrying my little stereo into the very back of my walk-in closet. It's so weird how little things like that bring me back to such specific instances. Something about people yelling just makes me shut down. I'm completely out of my brain, and I can't focus on anything but that. Okay, this is a big one, and I think this is a case for a lot of people with childhood trauma. This is crying for someone even slightly raising their voice at me. This kind of coincides with the last one, but it's just the sensitivity aspect. This makes me apologize, like, all the time, and I can't stop. I'm a constant people pleaser, and I could never please my father, so I think that's the reason why I, crave that validation so frequently. I literally got an award my freshman year of high school that said, most likely to apologize for absolutely nothing, which, haha, funny, but, like, it's true. I will just be existing, and all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, I am so sorry, I'm literally annoying the fuck out of you, and what can I do to make it up to you? And I feel like this makes my apologies sound insincere because I say it so much, and I've worked for so many years to try to stop this, and I think I have gotten a lot better, but, a few sorries slip out here and there when it's not necessary. But my apologies are genuine because I do feel awful for the things I do. Some things are minuscule and nobody notices them but myself. There are some bigger things that I do feel awful about, and I feel like my brain will never forgive myself. And I think that's a main reason that I say sorry so much, because I want to forgive myself, but I don't allow myself to be forgiven in those instances. Recently especially, I don't know, I've just been noticing myself feeling this constant wave of guilt. I don't want to worry anyone because I talked it through in therapy and I feel, confident in the tools that I'm going to use for this feeling going forward, but I was feeling guilty 24 hours a day. I got no sleep. The guilt would keep me up, and some of the things were, like I said, so minuscule and not worth feeling guilty about, but, everyone makes stupid mistakes, especially stupid teenagers. When you're young, you are stupid, and I know that I have been stupid before, and it haunts me every single day. And I don't look at this as my mental health declining, because I seriously am doing better than I ever have been. It's just a minor setback, but it's a setback that I have to try so hard to stop. Something that has really helped me with this is writing letters that I'll never send. Writing a letter and tearing it up, or tossing it in the trash, or burning it like some people do to love letters, but, whatever. That has been something that it's like, wow, that is a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, and I just get everything out on paper. After feeling this overwhelming guilt for the past week, I try to think back to a time in my life where I didn't feel guilty. You guys know I'm an overthinker, that's stating the obvious, and I wish I could turn my brain off from the, what ifs, but that's not possible. I can't think about a time in my life when I didn't feel this guilt. Obviously, it peaks and valleys, and some days are worse than others, but my brain is hardwired to be thinking about how I could have done something better. Because my dad was always telling me how I could have done things better. And as an adult, I have carried that. It's just overwhelming. That is the best way to describe how my childhood trauma affects me as an adult. I am constantly overwhelmed. I remember hearing the garage open because my room was right above the garage, and then I would run to my sister's room because her room faced the street. So I would look out her window and I would see that red car pull in the driveway, and I would instantly tense up. My brain would get so overwhelmed, like, are the dishes done? Are all the lights turned off? Wouldn't want to waste any money on the electrical bill. Is there anything slightly out of place? Because if something wasn't up to par to his ridiculous and unreasonable standards, then he would say things that hurt deep. Some things that don't even have to do with that thing, and, or pinching me until I bled. I would run and hide in my mom's room to avoid those shitty things, but then I would feel so guilty because when he would come into her room to yell at me, he would yell at her too. And that guilt I carry, it just feels like a never-ending cycle that I've just had to try to get my grip on for my entire life. There was a period of time, I think I was 16 or 17, I just remember it was during quarantine. I don't know why I remember this specifically, but selective memory. Anyway, I remember someone talking about mental health on TikTok, and I thought, wow, it's great that the stuff that I went through as a kid doesn't really affect me. Like, it wasn't that bad. I don't really have any issues because of it. And looking back on that, I was so naive, and I remember truly believing that. And now, on a daily basis, I'm recognizing why certain things trigger me, and it always links back to my childhood. That's a huge reason why I think that child psychology is so interesting, and that's what I want to do with my life, because I want to help kids figure out why they're feeling what they're feeling, and knowing that what they're feeling is valid and okay. Something else that happens because of my trauma is thinking catastrophically. Always on edge that something bad is about to happen, because I'm used to that. Just sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for my dad to get home to yell at me and just get that over with. And I know I talked about this during my dissociation episode, but I do that so often because when I was a kid I would just avoid those feelings. And it's taken me a long time to grow to talk about my feelings and want to get things out, because I used to be very avoidant and I wouldn't talk about anything, and it's painful because keeping all that bottled up is not healthy, and it's just so relieving being able to talk about it. When I was in elementary school, I would go to the counselor's office. Every week on Wednesdays, me and a group of girls from my class would meet for lunch, and we would talk about what was going on at home. This was something that my counselor enforced, and at first, I was so nervous and just very uncomfortable because I didn't want to open up and tell people what my dad would do. But then I heard all their stories, and I knew that I wasn't the only one going through it. Literally 40 to 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Having those troubles at home is more common than I thought, and this was during the time when Child Protective Services would come to the school and question my siblings and I about my dad. That was also very uncomfortable because on one hand, I was hurt. I was hurt that my dad would speak to anyone the way he did, and I wanted so badly for him to be good. On the other hand, he was my dad, and I had such high hopes for him to be good. So I was so conflicted when these people, or the people from DFACS, would come to my school and ask me questions. I never knew what to say because I didn't want to say something that would send my dad away, because at the time I didn't see all the stuff that he was doing as abuse, because I still loved him. And there were still times that he was good, and I held on to those good times. Something else that I've noticed is I'm always paranoid. I kind of touched on this earlier, but I have such bad trust issues. I never believe people are who they say they are. Like, my dad was able to put on such a good show for other people. I never trust that that is what they're actually like. So that's why it's really hard for me to let people in, and unfortunately there have been instances where there are people in my life that decide they don't want me in theirs. I have that nagging feeling in the back of my mind at all times telling me that whoever I'm talking to will turn around and stab me in the back. So don't trust them. There are also a lot of ways that my trauma has affected my romantic relationships, and it does push people away, even though in my mind it's just me trying so badly to do whatever I can to keep them in my life. I had no control during my childhood when my dad would stay or go, because sometimes he would stay at the house and be super nice and actually talk to me and do things with me. And I start to think, maybe he has changed. But then the next day he's gone and I don't see him for 3 months. And I'm like, where the fuck did he go? So many things were out of my control. So in the past I've sought that control to try to get everything in my life to stay the same. But I know now that everything staying the same is just setting myself up for a life of mediocrity, because things should be constantly changing in my life, constantly evolving. That's how we grow. And ever since I started embracing that change, I've grown to be so happy with the things that I do have and not chasing after the people that don't want me there, because it's not worth my energy. Another factor is feeling like I always have to be doing something for my partner, because if I'm not, then they'll get bored and they'll leave, because whenever something exciting wasn't going on for me, my dad would not pay attention. This has pushed me to my breaking point in many of my relationships, because I wear myself out. I give them literally everything I have emotionally, and I save nothing for myself, so everything is just drained out of me. I become so reliant on that person that I'm not even my own person anymore. Acknowledging this has made me take a step back and reevaluate my actions, because I am my own human being before I'm a girlfriend. Like I've said so many times, I'm an overthinker, so I'm always thinking about the what ifs. What if they didn't like this thing I did? What if they don't want to actually date me anymore? That makes whoever I am in a relationship with so exhausted because of me, and because I need that reassurance. If someone's never dealt with that before, it can seriously wear them out, which I've grown to see, because not seeing that, I'm like, okay, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Everyone just keeps leaving. And I wasted so much time just wondering what went wrong, but some people aren't equipped to deal with all of this baggage that I have. It's hard, and it makes my partner's life a little bit more difficult. And it's not that I'm trying to make it that way, but I just have things that I need to feel secure in a relationship. And some people can't give that, and that's okay. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. I don't think that my dad will ever understand the ways that his behavior has affected me. Now that I'm an adult, I'm no longer looking for people to give me what they're not capable of giving. Having such high expectations from my dad resulted in so much disappointment, and I held on to that disappointment like, oh, this is how everything's gonna turn out, this is just how my life has to be. I would beat myself up over not getting his validation, like, oh, I got a B on this math test, I should have gotten an A. There's still a speck of dirt on the floor, I should have cleaned a little deeper. There's just so much that I focus on what I could have done better when I could just be focusing on that I did it, and that I'm proud of myself for doing it. Like, yes, bitch, you got a B on that math test. The fuck? Who cares if there's a damn speck of dirt on the floor? You still got up and cleaned. That's something. I've just had to work so hard on giving myself the benefit of the doubt and knowing that what I'm doing is enough. But it's a hard pill to swallow, and it sucks, and it takes a long fucking time. But I'm working on it. That's pretty much all the topics I wanted to touch on in this episode. It's a lot, and I hate that it affects me so much, and I know a lot of people do have it harder than me, a lot harder than me. And it's just, I think about people that didn't have to go through this as a child, and I wonder what I would look like, and how I would react to different things, or how I would handle different situations. And I see a better version of myself, but there is no version of that me. I am the only version of myself, and I'm proud of myself. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening. I will see you guys next Sunday. Remember that you are loved, you are valued, and you are appreciated. And it's going to get better. I promise. Okay, bye!